Hey, Adam Rutledge, I'm back, and this is my partner, Mr. Rob Swallow with Payne West Insurance. Rob, how long have you been doing insurance for?
Going on 16 years.
Rob's been doing insurance for 16 years, and thought it'd be a good idea for us to chat about some of the common mistakes he sees or opportunities and low-hanging fruit that everyone could benefit from. So, Rob, what you got for us?
Where to start? Give me a question. What are you wondering about the most?
So, I've got an accepted offer, buying a house. At what point should I reach out to an insurance agent?
Typically, from our perspective, it's just as important as every other part. Title, mortgage, real estate, it should all be considered when you're looking, because if you've got a certain budget, let's say it's $600,000, and at first you're looking at a $600,000 home on Hillcrest, but then maybe that's a little too much house and a little bit too much in town. Now all of a sudden you're looking at a $600,000 house out in the Applegate, that's only 1,500 square feet, but there's a tremendous difference in insurance and what you're going to qualify for. Wildfire exposure has become a huge part of where you're going to land in insurance, who's going to accept your insurance, and how much insurance is going to cost. So really be in there with your insurance agent as early as possible, and as you're talking to your real estate agent, trying to come up with an offer, make sure that the insurance is not going to impact your payment enough to scare you away from a closing.
All right, and so what do you think are a couple of the most common mistakes you see people make with insurance in general?
I would say that probably one of the most common pitfalls that people run into is looking at insurance as a commodity, as a product that they just need to have it, they need to get past it.
Check a box.
Yeah, and what do we see with most, and I hate to use this word, but with most consumers, we see them shopping. Why are they calling a different insurance company every 6 months? They want it cheaper.
Yeah, okay.
They're typically not ever asking about coverage. And unfortunately, a lot of times the insurance agents, if they don't have more than one market, or if they're just trying to win on price, they're just going to take over what they had before. They're not going to, investigate what the customer's actual needs are. And that when you finally get to that moment of truth, which is when you have a claim, did you have all the right coverage or not? And more as I get into this business, and you saw it after year 2, you saw a little bit after year 5, and then some of these coverages that you kind of thought, oh, who would ever use that? You start to go like, wait, these coverages are really important. Everybody needs to know about them.
Yeah, so beware of the true cost of the cheapest insurance.
Yeah.
Because it's probably for a reason?
Yeah. Some of the examples that we can use are during the Alameda fire. Anybody that lives in the Rogue Valley knows somebody that was affected by that.
Yeah.
And probably knows somebody that had a claim that had something that wasn't covered, or maybe they ran out of coverage or ran out of money halfway through their project because of inflation and because of the cost of labor. If your policy was built right, even if you were only insured to the amount that it would have cost at the time you wrote the policy, it takes into account that inflation. It takes into account increased building costs and the increased costs for work and then the things that we saw after that.
So the good insurance that you may have paid a little more for would actually replace your dwelling. And I've heard a lot of that where they had insurance, but it wasn't sufficient. And like you said, they couldn't finish the house with the insurance money.
Yeah, and they're having to take out another loan on top of their existing mortgage, or getting assistance from FEMA, or whatever the case happened to be. It's going to be different for everybody. Yeah, but the coverage is in some way or form called it extended or enhanced dwelling cost, and usually will give you a percentage above your coverage limit to make sure that if the situation arises, you're going to be covered.
Dang, okay. And then if someone absolutely needs a lower premium, I've heard that one thing you can do is just have a higher deductible.
Yeah, sure. We do that all the time. You just want to make sure that that person, whoever it is, that client understands what the impact means after a claim. Because if you have a tree if you have that tree that falls on your gazebo and the gazebo is $3,000, you've got a $5,000 deductible. The math is pretty simple there.
Just go to Costco, get a new one.
Yeah. Yeah, just make sure you understand what you're doing. That's almost like self-insuring. I do have customers that run $20,000 deductibles because they have that money, set aside. They have that money in the bank, and they know that if they're put in a situation where they need it, they have access to that. Where, my average guy like me, I want to keep $1,000 deductible, $1,500 deductible, because I don't want to have to come up with more than that.
Shell out a bunch of cash before insurance kicks in just to save on the monthly.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that could be a good discussion too, right? With people. Hey, you can get it. it cheaper, but you're going to pay for it.
And the impact on your premium when you file a claim is something to consider too.
Ooh.
So you've got, okay, I filed a claim to save $400, but now my premium went up $100 a year for the next 5 years. Ugh, all right, well, now you're actually out of pocket more.
Okay. So the wildfire thing, because I know there's big controversy where everyone's mad at Oregon for coming out with a wildfire map, but then I had heard that insurance companies had already done their own. I remember they kind of like, the state map came out and then a bunch of people started getting like notices of non-renewal, and that was more like of a coincidence than actually the state, or?
Yeah, it could have been. It depends on the insurance company.
Okay.
One of our largest insurance partners came out with a new map about a month before. It's an entirely new mapping system, but they had been developing it for the last 6-7 months. And sure enough, they did kind of come out at the same time. It was a kind of a rough deal. And typically, those companies weren't non-renewing, but they're increasing their premiums in those areas. And also, what they're doing is, in those areas where they were already writing insurance, like let's say you're out in the Applegate, or if you're out in Eagle Point, or way out in Shady Cove.
Something rural.
Yeah, something really rural. They may not be writing there now, even though they already have risks out there at this time. Those risks will probably see rate increases, and then they will not be placing new business.
Okay, yeah, because actually, you helped us out with a deal in the Applegate where the seller had insurance, and then the insurance company said, yeah, we're honoring this policy, but we're not going to issue a new one to the new borrower. So,
yep.
And I think that's probably one of the more helpful things that I've seen with your particular business is that you're not captive to one insurance company, so you can shop.
Right. If we're looking at 10 different companies, 3 might be a good fit, then we can focus on price and really fine tune it to that customer's needs.
Okay, and so if I'm a buyer, I need to get a hold of insurance sooner than later once I get an accepted offer. And then is it a potential where if I'm looking at rural property to actually be in touch with my insurance professional before to see if there is like wildfire issues that would maybe prevent getting coverage?
Yeah, as a guy that's been focused on property insurance for, like I said, the last 12 or 13 years, and that being kind of my bread and butter, I always prefer to be involved early. And I work with a lot of real estate agents and a lot of mortgage folks, and they know the benefit of having that person involved up front, because you don't want to get is this going to work, man? Because you don't want to get to that point where you're 3 weeks before closing, and the original quote that you got was fine, but now it's not because you've changed homes. I mean, there's all kinds of different reasons besides wildfire. There's flood, there's farming, there's running business from your home.
So you had mentioned flood. I've kind of heard too, like a pipe breaks in the house, it's covered, but a pipe breaks outside the house, is that a thing?
Yeah, so there's all kinds of different water claims.
Okay.
Typically, if there is a break of a line, whether it be from a refrigerator or even a pipe in the wall, is it chewed through, is it frozen? If that water damages the interior home, that's almost always going to be covered. If water backs up from a line that's outside of your home into your home, there's usually a limit to how much coverage you're going to get there.
Sewage backup.
Yeah, water, or any kind of service line, you know, that backs up. Could be sewage, could be water going to the house. And then there's also flood, and now flood is considered water that's entering your home at a ground level. Not from underground, but from out of ground level into the home.
I didn't know that. Okay.
And then for FEMA, or for the National Flood Insurance Program to kick in, there's stipulations that say that you're going to have a certain amount of homes that were affected. And so even if you had a flood insurance, but you're the only house that's affected, insurance coverage might not kick in.
Dang, that's good to know.
Yeah. And then if it's declared a flood by the National Flood Insurance Program, then you're going to be covered even if you're the only house that was affected. But
that was
most likely not. Well, most likely not if you're the only house that's affected.
Okay. What about, is there any savings that can be had with like moving all the insurance over instead of just like a homeowner's policy? Or is that just more like a convenience thing?
Yeah, having your home and auto together, there's always going to be a bundle, discount. What I don't like that word. I prefer package, but whatever, it doesn't matter.
Spectrum
have your
bundles.
home, have your auto. The more you have in one place, there's more potential for savings, but even bigger is it's a convenience thing. Yeah. I tell people all the time, I actually will turn people back to their old agent. If they're coming to me, they just want to bring their home. Oh, I'm going to keep my auto over here. I'm like, why do you want to have 2 agents?
Yeah.
Make it more convenient for yourself, or bring me everything. It's better off for you and your family if you know where everything's at.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah, keep it all in one place.
Why do you want to maintain 2 different relationships?
Gets complicated.
Yeah. I don't want to have a separate buyer's agent and a separate seller's agent. You understand my needs. You know all my needs. I'm going to use you for both.
Perfect. All right. Well, Rob Swallow, thanks for coming in. And then you can always email me if you have questions. I'll forward them to Rob, Adam at 541sold.com. Thanks for watching.